Hello, welcome, 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 everybody, to You've Championed Yourself. Who are you? I'm Chris Ferguson, your host, and it's always been my dream to showcase people who have taken their dreams, their ideas, and then turned them into reality. As they reach beyond their personal struggles and pains and traumas, so many people give up, they lose hope, they stop. There are those few who can walk through their obstacles and their challenges, not knowing where to go, not knowing where it's going to take them. They trust themselves enough not to give up. They follow through in their personal life, their career, and in relationships. These are what I call champions. Today, my guest is Pamela Steele. She's an amazing woman. She is all about oracle cards and tarot cards. And it's an odd combination. Most people do tarot, most people do oracle. We'll see where it goes, and let's just welcome Pamela to the broadcast. Hey, Pamela, how are you?
Hey, it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, I just retired in May of 2021, and said that this has been my lifelong dream, absolutely lifelong dream, is to help people showcase themselves who have gone through so much, who have been, we all have that backstory. We all have that understanding of what we walk through and what we've had to walk through. So when we have a mutual friend, and I was on a podcast, you were on a podcast, and I said, hey, if you're interested, absolutely, I'd love to showcase you on my podcast. So with that, it says you're an artist. What artistry do you do?
I started out life just painting whatever was in front of me at about 15 years old. And I'm a dreamer. I mean, that's how many of us are just absolute dreamers. And so I started painting what I saw in my head. And the next thing you know, I became a fantasy artist, and I worked at that for several years and was introduced to tarot. And the next thing I know, I actually got introduced by my cousin insisting I buy a tarot deck. And when I first opened it up and looked through them, I thought, well, where's the rest of them? She about freaked out. But the bottom line was I could see in my head my version of what I was looking at in front of me on the cards. And 20 years later, she called me up and she said, you should do that because my publisher's looking and blah, blah, blah. So I sat down and got to work. I started October 21st, 1999, and June 21st, 2000, I had finished 88 drawings and the backs for the cards. I was done.
Wow.
9 months. Awesome. It usually takes years to do a tarot to get that, but it was in my head and I couldn't get it out fast enough. So fantasy art, that's my first love.
Okay, you're a licensed massage therapist. What got you to go to that avenue? Because sometimes a lot of artists are introverted and they don't want to be around people. But being a massage therapist, you're putting hands on people
all the time. Well, okay. There's two things. One, when I was in high school, you talk about introverted. I wouldn't make eye contact. I was one of those, really, truly one of those. But when I was in the 9th grade, going into the 10th grade, I couldn't get into art class. And so I went to the art teacher and said, please, please, please let me in your class. She looked through my sketchbook and told me I had no talent. And I went, oh, damn. So I went to my counselor and he said, look, I can't make her accept you. She just flat told me I wasn't any good. Fine. So he did the only thing that he could think to do is an elective. He put me in drama. And you're putting an absolute, total introverted, don't even think about me, don't look at me person in drama. So the first 6 weeks I sat at the back of the theater drawing pictures. And so she goes to my counselor and asks him, what do I do? And he said, well, she really loves horses. She has a horse, finally. And you might try reaching her. My drama coach bought a little round Arabian horse that hadn't been ridden in probably 5 years and rode over to where the girls that I rode with were at and made me a deal. She said, I will buy this horse and I will ride with you girls every chance I get. but I want you on stage. And I'm shaking my head, and she said, you're not going to get a better offer than that. I became her leading lady because she taught me how to interact with people. She was my, you know how everybody seems to have that one teacher in school who really changed. She was it. Her name was Joan Snyder. And I will never forget her, and I will always be grateful, because after that I got really good at it. And that's when I found out one thing that really impressed me. Art and healing are the exact same energy. You
They are.
cannot differentiate between one and the other. Some of your more famous artists throughout history have studied medicine, and it was learning how the body worked and moved in the muscles and all that they became the artists that they were that they did. So yeah, it's the same energy. And thanks to my drama coach, and just the fact that I never give up, it wasn't really that big of a stretch for me to get into massage therapy, because I was doing it anyway with animals, people I knew. So it really wasn't that big a stretch. It was kind of fun. And I like it. I love it, actually. So yeah. And it pays the bills.
What is the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards?
Okay, tarot. Okay, let me see if I can show you real quick. Tarot is a predetermined protocol. Okay, there's generally 78 cards in a tarot deck, and you have what they call the minor and the major arcana. The minor arcana is the ace through king, and there are 4 suits, just like in an average playing deck. Okay, only in tarot they're called swords, wands, pentacles, and cups. All right. And after, so that makes up the first little batch. And then there are 22 what they call major arcana, or the greater magic, for a total of 78 cards. Now that's a traditional tarot, okay? And the major arcana begins with the Fool and goes through the world. So you've got these cards which represent the archetypes that we as humans go through in varying stages throughout our lives. The Fool or the Seeker, or whatever you want to call it, at any point you can become a student again. At any point you can start fresh. So that card may show up at any place in your life at any time. And where the minor arcana, the ace through king, as it were, those are the cards that represent more like day-to-day events and what's going on, like jobs, money, emotions, love affairs, and people. Okay. But the archetypes, the major arcana, those are completely different. It's like 2 sets of cards in one. Okay. That's a tarot. Whereas an oracle is not a predefined anything. It can be 20 cards. It can be 50 cards. It doesn't matter. It's whatever the person that is creating the deck envisions. Okay. Like, okay, what I did was I had, this is, where am I? Oh, there we are. There we are. This is called the Steel Wizard Tarot. This is the one that I made. Okay. It's got an extra 10 cards because I felt like, one, young women should be represented in the suits, in the court cards, as they're called, the knight, queen, king, page. I added a maiden in there, and they represent the potential for each suit. And then when it came to the major arcana, the big magic, I always felt like I was guessing when I would do a reading, and readings really are just messages for the people that I'm reading for. I will not retain the information. It's not up to me. My job is to get the message out. So what those represent as a whole, I just felt like I was guessing. I needed a card that would represent absolute truth and shadows and things that, they just weren't really well defined to me. Maybe to everybody else that was fine, but I needed more. So I added another 6 in the major arcana and ended up with 88 cards. So I've got 10 extra in here, which really was a problem when I started to try to find a publisher. And that's your average tarot, okay? Or traditional tarot is a 78 card deck. Mm-hmm. But an oracle, totally different story. What I did was I started out 7 years ago. Anyway, a while back. I think it was in 2015. I was asked to do a poster for the very first ever Northwest Tarot Symposium. Some friends of mine were starting in the Portland area. And as soon as they asked me to be their guest artist and do a poster, I said, oh, I've got a great idea. So the working title for the poster became The Hermit Dude, because one of the major arcana cards is called Hermit. And in doing this, I was also working on another deck for my granddaughter, which is called The Wizard's Pets. But in doing this Hermit Dude, this poster, everyone who saw it asked me, wow, is this the beginning of your next deck? And I'm going, no, absolutely not. Because what's happening here is I'm still trying to get my granddaughter's deck published. So no. And a year and a half goes by and people kept asking. And finally I said, you know what? Let me see what I can do. So I sat down and I did a second image. Okay. But the first one is this guy here, a hermit dude. Okay. He is now called the Spirit Guide. So you can see we kind of changed the name a little bit, or I did. Anyway, what I ended up with when I finally finished all of these were a 33 card deck of archetypes. And I added to it because to me, there were gaps in the major arcana whenever you get to this card and all of a sudden you go from, oh my gosh, we need to be hiding with buckets over our heads to, gee, you're surrounded by angels and everybody loves you. How did you get from here to there? And linearly thinking, I needed to know. So I made a card fit. And that's pretty much the difference between tarot and oracle. So what I do when I'm doing a reading, I get this deck out and, crap, I'm backwards. Okay, the Eternal Seeker Oracle. And I will shuffle them and fan them out in front of whoever I'm reading for. And at that point, I will ask them to choose one card, just one. And this was an experiment that worked. And they'll pass their hand over the deck and they'll pick out a card. That card out of this oracle tells me exactly what they need to know. It tells me where they are in their development, in their path of self-discovery. It tells me what they're looking, the most inner secret that they're looking to find, okay? And so I'll explain it to them. This is the card you chose and this is why. And they always go, wow, that is so cool. Then we proceed with the tarot reading using that card as a focus. And I've been doing it for about, going on 2 years now. And it's been very enlightening. People come to me that have never had a reading before in their lives, and they'll say things like, well, I don't know if I want you to know that much about me. Sweetie, I'm not going to remember. My job is to give you the message. It is your message, not mine. I won't remember in 20 minutes. So there you go.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you mentioned something about embracing the shadow work.
Yes.
And so my question to you is, can you explain what the shadow work that is you're talking about and how does it apply to other people? Does it allow? And there's a reason why I'm asking it this way. Okay. Okay. The shadow work, is that the traumas and the pains and the emotional suffering that a person's gone through in their past?
Some people embrace the shadows by letting them define them. That's not who you are. You're a divine being having a human experience. That's it. That's all. So when you're working with shadows, the important thing to remember is by embracing them, you're acknowledging them and you're saying, yes, but in order to become fully who we are, we have to experience who we are not. So a few things you did back in 1902, they weren't too cool. Okay, so what? But if one of your children or someone who is as dear to you as maybe more dear than your own life came to you, sat across from you and said, gee, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is the, and that person, maybe this beloved child, well, I think of my kids when I do this. Maybe that person is telling you your story because this is exactly what you just lived through. These are the choices you made. Maybe not the best, but you made them anyway, because that was the only knowledge you had at the time. You chose what you thought was best, or you did it anyway. Either way, it doesn't matter. My question to you is, would you hold that against your child? Would you hold that against someone who is as dear to you as air and life? No, you would not. you would say, okay, let's work through this. And then you would begin to work with them to overcome and embrace it. You can't forget it. It's going to happen. It happened. It's real. But what you can do is find a way to not just forgive yourself, but to learn from it and to grow from it. And from there, everybody has this. Everybody has their backstory. Everybody has scary things. And so many people, when they get together, they Carol and Miss call it woundology. They start comparing war stories, and pretty soon they've built their entire relationship on some horrible codependent past. That doesn't work for very long. I mean, you will get to a point where one person or the other starts to find that imbalance because one's getting more than the other, and you're sucking each other dry. So that's not a soulmate situation, as it were. What that is that's a codependent relationship. And by embracing your shadows and fully understanding that the brighter your light, the darker the shadow is going to be. So crank that light up as bright as you can get it until it's just literally glaring and blinding everything. And the shadow's still there, and you know it's there, and you know that it happened, and you know it's real. But you also know that that's not who you are. That's who you are not. So don't let it define you, and just start one step at a time, baby steps. And you may have to back up a few times, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. As long as you're making progress, as long as you're trying, it's all good.
Do you find when people do this that they do or they self-sabotage themselves because their shadow becomes their comfort zone. It's their excuse. It's their reason for not stepping forward.
Definitely. You're absolutely right. And that's when they will start a sentence with, I can't because. Because see, people put too many conditions on their self-worth and their happiness. They put, well, I'll be happy when my house is paid off. I'll be happy when I find the right person. I'll be happy when. It doesn't work that way. And it's the same with shadow work. You can't wait till you're an ascended being to become totally whole. You already are. You just have to acknowledge that and recognize it. You have to give yourself permission to be that and to make mistakes. I mean, I don't know a single person that hasn't made mistakes ever.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But the thing is I guess my viewpoint is with shadow work, you have to not only look at it but embrace it and acknowledge that in my thinking that if you're under 18, you legally have no control, liability, or any understanding of the right, wrong, or indifference. That's why we have the systems we have in place so that you get the chances to be able to make different choices by learning the lesson. Then when you hit 18, you've learned all the lessons. You know the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, light and dark.
Mhm.
And so when you make those choices at that point, you're either continuing the dark decisions or you're saying, that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to be. And so you take the steps to step forward. And sometimes they're hard. They're really hard. Getting out of your comfort zone and quit telling yourself, but get that word, get try out of your vocabulary, because those are those definitive words that gives you the ability to make an excuse not to do it.
Absolutely.
It cuts the cord. So
Absolutely.
I think when I see shadow work, um, it has a lot to do with what you've experienced in your life, your past lives,
Hmm.
and what's in your subconscious, the excuses, the lies, everything you told yourself to survive. And at some point in time, you have to acknowledge them that, you know what, I did that, but it was to protect me. I said that so that I wouldn't be hurt or nobody would see my pain. I didn't want to be ashamed. I didn't want to be treated different. I didn't want to be outed in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes,
So
Joe.
in that shadow work is I teach many people on dealing in shadow work. Um, I have to tell you my backstory so you'll understand. I'm a third generation tarot card reader, and So the fact is I knew you didn't know this when I invited you. So that's why when I said, hey, I need to have her on here. She's going to be amazing. And I didn't know you. We were on a webinar. The only communication was in chat. So the fact is I said, there's just something about her energy I need to pick up on. I am an energy healer. I cure people with frequencies. I have every week I send out prayers to the planet, to all beings. I have a meditation to help people on Sunday nights to get ready for Monday so that they don't get stuck in their mind, in their overthinking to sabotage themselves Monday morning. So with all of that in here, you said that you're a teacher. What do you teach?
Self-empowerment, in a word, or two words. That's it. As a reader, okay, I'm here to help you figure it out. That's it. That's all. Because you already know it's just triggering your memory so that you've got the tools that you need to keep going. Okay. What I teach is people how to reclaim their power, their personal power. Because I don't want to see you every week. I don't want you following up, I don't want you calling me in the middle of the night with some catastrophe, because that's not how it works. Because I won't read for you if you're in panic mode. It's like a scattergun. Oh my God. But on the other hand, if you've had a few days to kind of settle it in and say, okay, you lost your job, this and this and this happened. Well, honestly, honey, I've seen worse, a lot worse, but that's okay. That's fine. I mean, it's only what you can deal with. That's what you will be given. So my job is to tell you the message that Spirit is trying to give you. Because in all realities, you already know, we just need to remember who we are, who we truly are. And how this works.
I do believe we all have the answers. It's just what we tap into and allow us to understand and then follow through. In your healings, is it more just talking with them? Is it frequencies? Is it through the massage therapy that you do this? Because there's a lot of energy that transmutes between your hands and an individual, and most people do not understand that. And so they do know where the muscles are that really don't feel good, that really need that help. But the thing is as a healer, how do you combine massage therapy and healing?
Most of my clients have been with me for at least 9 years. Some of them have been with me over 20. And they've known from the beginning there was something different. And they ask, they're very comfortable about it. What are you doing? There's that buzzing. There's that. Why does it tingle? Gee, because I'm working on your feet, okay. And that's where the problem is, but not in your feet. It's somewhere else in your body. You're feeling this in your kidneys because, what it comes down to is it's more a holistic approach, because when I've got my hands on somebody, I can get a deeper read on them. And it will tell me maybe they're short of calcium. Yeah, I'm always achy and I can't sleep. And what's your calcium level? Go to your doctor. Tell me what your calcium level is. Little things like that. And I work a lot with semi-precious stones and crystals. I've done that for as long as I can remember too. Simply because it's a blend. I mean, it's everything that you don't know how many times I've told someone, okay, it's summertime. What you need to do is take your shoes off and go walk through the dirt, dig in the dirt, get your toes in the grass. Don't step on any bees, but just connect, because you've disconnected and you need to reconnect with our mother, our great mother. And the only way to do that is barefoot, and just go out there and wiggle in there and say, Mama, I need some help. Mm-hmm. And she'll help you. Mm-hmm. She will. I mean, all you have to do is ask. Most of us are too, shy and insecure, whatever you want to call it, to just ask for help. It's hard. It's hard to ask for help because, in the back of your mind, it says, oh, you're showing weakness. And if you show weakness, then somebody's going to come along and eat your lunch. Maybe not. You can't just ask anybody for help, but you know instinctively who you can ask for help. And these are the people that inevitably become your tribe, your people, your other family.
Hmm.
And sometimes you don't even have to ask. They know you well enough to know, give me that. And they're not giving you a handout, they're giving you a hand up. And that's what makes it different. That's what makes our communities, that's what makes us strong, is knowing who. And the
I
first
think
person you
it's
have to
more,
believe in and trust is yourself. And after
yes.
that, once you can do that for you and with you, you will send out this great big neon sign that says, okay, this is who I'm looking for. Show up, work
Mhm.
with me.
I agree with that in a lot of ways. A lot of people, it's ego that stops them from asking. It's pride that stops them from asking. And I had a person come to me yesterday. It was my day was crazy. I had other interviews to do. I've been in a webinar. I have a mentorship that I do, and they said, "Can you do a healing for me? I just can't quit overthinking." And so I did. I took the time and made the time for them. But the thing was, is that they were so self sabotaging and they didn't even think about it, saying, "Can you help me?" So when I said, "Thank you, one, for trusting me. Thank you for reaching out because for you, that was a huge step. You don't even realize how much of a huge step it is to step out and ask. It's the simplest thing." As an advanced Ho'oponopono practitioner, it's all about forgiving ourselves. It's all about saying, I'm sorry for the things I didn't know that I did, or the things that I did and I was just trying to survive. Please forgive me, but it's from me to me, not me to anybody else. It's from me to me. And then to say, I love you. Most people can't say they love themselves. And thank you. So when you thank yourself for all the things that you do in life and understand that every part of your body are spirits, your cartilage, your bones, your veins, your muscles, your tendons, your organs, all of it are spirits. The blood that runs through your veins, each cell is a spirit. And you
Yeah,
thank yourself for carrying you through the day,
yeah,
you will understand. And so many people are, I see, I've been a shamanic practitioner for 40 years. And so the fact is that when people start trusting themselves, they make
yes,
better decisions. They don't sabotage themselves. They don't overthink. They don't do the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and they understand and don't and set their boundaries. It
yes.
accomplishes so much in their life. So the fact is that's why when uh, you and somebody else was talking. I've already interviewed her, but when you two were talking, I was like, man, this is amazing. I'd love to have you on my show. And I'm so glad you agree. I so appreciate it. But in all of these things that you've done in your life, what was the thing that got you started? What was the incident that you can remember back to that one time that you didn't have trust in yourself? You didn't have trust in life. You didn't have trust in love. You just didn't trust.
There've been several, and it has to do with well, it was explained to me as a leveling up. Um, the one that really stands out in my mind was when my sons, I have two sons, they're 49 and 51 years old. I will be 70 in a week. When my ex,
Happy
I
birthday.
found, thank you. My kid's dad and I had met in high school, did all this other stuff. We ended up pregnant. Yay, me. And it was the best thing that ever happened. Okay. Terrifying at first, but the best thing it ever happened to me was giving birth twice. I mean, it was, I can't explain, I can't say that enough. Okay. But after we moved back to where we started, I mean, he went to school in Southern California. And so we spent 4 years there. And then we moved back to where we came from. He got into drugs,
Hmm.
and I couldn't figure out it. I mean, I was 21 ish, and I could not figure out what changed. I mean, he went from kind of a little bit aloof, but I was used to that, to just this. I didn't know him anymore. And I'd gone shopping one day and come home and was putting away toilet paper in the bathroom and standing on top of the toilet, stuffing things in the top of the cupboard. And I found, well, I didn't know what it was at the time, cocaine. Put it back. And when he came home finally, he showed up about 8, 9 o'clock that night. And I didn't say anything to him. He went straight back to the bedroom. And then he come out and he says, "You've been snooping in my stuff." And I said, "I wasn't snooping. I was putting toilet paper away. What's this all about?" Anyway, the fight ensued, and it got pretty. And the only question I asked myself at that moment was, you need to make a decision. And so I asked him, okay, I'm going to base my decision on what you say. Will you pull your head out of your, and, man up, really? In other words, it's us or the cocaine. And he said, quote, "See you, bitch," and walked out the door.
Wow.
Which, okay. I mean, but this was the culmination of a good half hour. And all I was thinking was, don't wake up the kids. Don't wake up the kids. Just don't wake them up. And when he left, I literally collapsed inside myself. And I sat down at the kitchen table and I had my face buried in my arms and I was quietly sobbing because I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I had a high school education, 2 little kids. Now what do I do? And the thing was, his dad was a big time politician at the time. And I was literally terrified, like at my wit's end. I did not know what to do. And I felt a hand on my arm, a tiny little hand on my arm, patting my arm. And I sat up and I said, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Did I wake you up?" It was my oldest, and he was 3.5. And he kind of shook his head. He said, "Mom, I'll tell you what. If you take care of me till I'm 18, I'll take care of you." I can't even talk about it now, but that was that moment when I said, "Honey, I don't care what it takes. We got this." And from that moment on, I mean, I went to work the next week at a newspaper in the art department. They did not want to hire me, but they did anyway. I never let it stop. I mean, I just kept pushing forward, and nothing ever derailed me after that. Not really, because I refused to go on welfare. I refused to send my kids to live with my mother. I refused all of their suggestions. No, I will find a way. I will make this work. I did everything from 10 bar to break horses to you name it. Anything I could do to make money and make my kids proud and keep us all together. And we did it. I did it. Okay. And every once in a while I'd hit this brick wall and think, I can't do this anymore. And then somebody needed a drink of water or a Band-Aid or something. And I was right back there. No. So it was my kids that gave me the strength to do it. I don't think I would have done it for myself, but for them, I'd do anything. And fast forward till about, I don't know, it was 2007 or 2006. And I had been through all kinds of hell. I mean, the art for the Steel Wizard was done. Everything was in place. The publishers were telling me, one publisher told me it wasn't worth the paper I drew it on. Another one said, "We'll take out the 10 cards and we'll think about it." And another one said, "Well, we'll put it in our queue and we'll let you know in a couple of years." And I had several people offer to finance it. Like, let me pay for getting it published. And I was sitting there, I'm thinking about all these options. And then I remembered my kids. I remembered how we got to where we are. Now, by then they're all grown up and gone, but we're still close. And I heard the voice in my head, which has talked to me since I can remember, say, "Put your money where your mouth is." And at that point, I owned a little acreage. So I put it up for sale. I sold it. I took the money from that and published the first edition of the Steel Wizard Tarot. Nobody had talked to me, so I kept at it until I found a printer and I found a distributor and I found all this. I made it happen. And that's why today I'm part of a group that teaches other artists and other tarot people how to get their work out of their heads and on the shelves, because I don't want anybody to ever have to go through what I did. So that's why we make it available. I work on a global basis with people because this is what it takes. We are a community. We are,
Connected.
we can do this,
Mhm.
but it takes all of us together to do it.
Well, we're
And
all
I don't
connected.
want anyone else to ever have to go through what I did, ever.
Well, I have to honor you in such a way because when I finished telling you, I had the reverse. My dad is Native American, my mother's white. They were both in the Army. That's how they met. They had 6 kids. They couldn't stay together. My dad was a horrible, horrible drunk. My mother was very, very physically violent. And so the thing was, is he decided to get his duty station change and left her behind with 6 kids. The Catholic Church told her that she could not raise 6 kids by herself because I'm 62. And so that was back in the time where women didn't work unless they absolutely had to. And it was usually the single women that were like the waitresses and stuff like this. So the Catholic Church said, hey, let me help you. I turned 8 in February. May, I had my first Holy Communion. And June 7th, I became an orphan at an orphanage. My mother had relinquished 6 kids and drove away. So I am the opposite of you. She didn't want to try. She just wanted to leave just like our father did. So they abandoned 6 kids and it was tough. But it made me the what I went through. I was like, why is this happening? What have I done? I cursed out 8 years old. I didn't know curse words. I was like, why do you hate me, God? Why do you hate me? Why are you doing this to us? And I wouldn't change a day of it now because it's brought me from then to here. And this is why I champion and I created this podcast is to give people who have walked through pains, who have walked through traumas, who have empowered themselves and are able to empower others through what they do or what they've experienced. And they never gave up.
Bravo.
So the fact
Bravo.
is my parents had a total of 11 children. My mother had another one. My dad was off and had 4 more children. And I didn't get to know them until my brother was murdered by a drunk driver standing in his front yard. So the thing was, is he had done a lot of stuff, Wayne. He had done a lot of stuff. He was doing a lot of stupid stuff, drug dealing back in the 70s, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And he was finally trying to get his life together. And that's when that happened. And it was like, that's when I knew, even though I'd been through so much in my life, that's when I knew when you make a contract with the devil, he does collect. Whether you choose to it or not, he does collect. So that's why it's so important to get in touch with your shadow self.
You do. Exactly.
So again, I want to celebrate you and honor you because you're the parent. Not that I wish that I had, but that stuck it out with their kids instead of abandoning them.
You know, I truly believe that no matter what has happened in our past, and I mean, we're here today, okay? And it took every millisecond of every heartbeat to bring us here and now. And this is where we belong. This is perfect. It couldn't be any more perfect. And if you can't recognize the perfection in the moment, you need to stop and find it because it's here. It's here and it's now. And without this perfect moment, we can't continue. I mean, I remember Christmases where we took, you remember the old pop top cans where you could take the top right off?
Uh-huh.
We collected those from all of the neighbors and we made chains to hang on the Christmas tree. Okay. We took old Christmas cards and newspaper wrappings and made Christmas balls out of them. I mean, it just, God, the things that we did because, and it was some of the best Christmases. I think the boys were in their mid to late 20s by the time I'd finally quit making all the Christmas presents. And they told me that was not acceptable, that I could buy them something, but no, I think, Mom, I'd really rather have something you made. So
Mhm.
I still do. I mean, not all the time, but
Right.
a lot of the times I am making a gift for them or for my grandkids now. But that's why. because it's from the heart, and they see that value. And I couldn't be more proud of the people that I've raised. I mean, I couldn't be more proud.
Right. But not everybody has that. Not everybody gets that opportunity. And that's okay. But there's a purpose, there's a meaning. And so it's how you walk through it, how you champion yourself that makes a difference. Because I could have become a product of my society. I could have, I mean, I'm one of two people out of 11 kids that has a college degree. I'm one
Wow.
of five that actually got a high school diploma. I'm actually four, one, two, three, four that own my own home. So the thing is it's all about choices.
Yes.
It is all about choices. If you want to continue walking down that path and having what I call a really, really hard time in life, the hard knocks, the falling downs, the loss of hope, keep making those choices. It is so much harder to change that mindset and say,
It is.
wow, I'm important. I'm worthy enough. I can do anything.
Mhm.
So the fact is that I knew when I invited you here, this would be an amazing conversation, amazing understanding. And that with people, it's about honoring yourself.
It is.
Your mistakes are not a life sentences.
No.
We only harbor them in our hearts, and that's what makes it a life sentence.
Hmm.
We all make mistakes. I
Yep.
mean, I never started a fight in school, but I finished every one of them. That's how
Yep.
angry of a child I was. It didn't matter if it was a boy, it didn't matter if it was a girl, or there was three girls or five girls. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. So the fact is it's like you never know what people are walking through.
No.
And so I
Uh-uh.
always will say hello to everyone. I don't care who you
Yeah.
are. I don't care what you're dressed like because you don't know what they've walked through. And it might be just getting up that morning, they weren't planning on doing that.
You never do know, do you? And I mean, that's the one thing that my grandmother taught me. And bless her, she was my person. She passed in 92, and I still talk to her today. She taught me one very, very valuable lesson, and that was you approach every person you meet. It doesn't matter. Every single one of them, you approach them the way you would like to be treated. And
Mhm.
if and that's with dignity, respect. She she was very adamant about that. It doesn't matter what you're thinking right now. It doesn't matter. Just be aware that that person, you haven't walked in their shoes. You don't know what they're going through. You smile and you greet them. And I have made friends in some of the most unlikely places with some of the most unlikely people
Mhm.
because it was, hi, can I help you? You know, just like that. You look lost. Or it wasn't a couple of weeks ago. I live in a town where there's a lot of immigrants, like tons of immigrants. And these people have come halfway around the world to work at jobs that are horrible and do these. And a lot of people, they really don't want to be here. And I don't blame them. They would probably rather be home. But I ran into a woman at one of the stores a few weeks ago, and she was tall. She was from the Middle East somewhere. I can tell by the way she was dressed, and she sounded like she was speaking Farsi. So I'm kind of watching because she was obviously confused, and the sales lady was trying so hard to help her, and she couldn't. And finally, I said, "May I?" Because I'm really good at charades. So anyway, I went up and I started, what are you looking for? And she finally got it through to me that she was looking for band-aids. Oh, and I said, "Come with me." And she did not know much English. She was so grateful that somebody was finally going to figure this out. So I took her over to another aisle where I'd seen them and was showing her the different kinds of different sizes and what do you need, because she was going like this, which okay, you need something to cover pain, and so I got that. And when we finally got it all figured out what she needed, she had two boxes in her hand and she turned to me and she said in very broken English, "Thank you, you are my sister," and hugged me.
Aw.
And I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I didn't even flinch. I hugged her back. I said, "You're welcome. Thank
Aw.
you." You
That's
know,
yeah.
I don't know who she is. I probably never see her again, but it doesn't matter, does it?
Right. No, you're right. It doesn't. We are all connected. If we would
Yeah,
just realize it, if we could get beyond the ignorance, get beyond the hate, get beyond the labels and titles that everybody wished they had, we would find out that we're more accepting and allowing than most people think. We just don't want it shoved down our throats. And a lot of people are that way.
exactly. Don't
So,
tell me I have to, but
yeah,
ask me and I'll probably do it.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, anyway, Pamela, I wanted to say thank you for coming today. Thank you for being a part of this. And I do see you as a sister. And I knew we were kind of connected, but it was, I kept seeing yin and yang. And I thought, what the world does that mean? And so now I know. So I understand the rest of the story today. So there was the purpose and the passion and the love and the light and the inner peace is what I wish everybody in the world. So I'm going to leave you with those words. And it was amazing, and I thank you for agreeing to come on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful. And I'm so glad to finally meet you. So it's good.
It takes a special kind of person and a special kind of individual to dream their thoughts, their ideas, and turn it into reality. Pamela stepped past her fears, stayed the course, and had the courage to follow through to the end. Pamela, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you have become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, your dreams, and your stories with us. Many blessings, much love, and have a great, great day.